Yo, what is up, God Gamers? In today's video, I'll do a quick guide and some tips on positioning in set 10, as it is pretty different than set 9, and there's some key things you guys should think about in each of your games when positioning your carry. That is a main focus of this video. If you guys don't know who I am, I've been a Challenger player since set 4, and I've been making loads of educational content for a long time, and I played over 100 games of the PvE server in preparation for this video. And before we get into it, if you want to show me some fantastic support, a great cost-free way is just press that like and subscribe button on this video if you end up finding it helpful. I would greatly appreciate that. That would help me so much more than you would ever know. But anyways, let's actually talk about why you came here and some key things you need to know. So we're going to go through a couple different things, but first up, we're going to talk about some key targeting of a lot of units that is different than some of the carries in our previous set. We have a lot of corner targeting units. So all 4 of these units down here, Lucian, Caitlyn, Akali, and Lux, this is KDA Akali, all target furthest enemy. And we'll get into how to position around that. So that's important to know. Lucian will fire his blast to the opposite corner. Caitlyn will do that. Akali will throw her shuriken, and then she'll eventually throw a shuriken to the other way or back to the front line again. And you can position around this, and Lux will always fire a laser to the furthest target, especially as well as if you play like EDM comps and you're playing Lux EDM, then there'll be a bunch of lasers. The targeting of these units over here, Thresh targets closest group of largest, like the largest group of closest enemies. He has kind of weird targeting, but we'll get into that in a second. And then Seraphine targets largest clump and has no like proximity targeting like Thresh does. So essentially they have the same targeting, but Thresh has a slight favoring to the largest group of enemies that is closest to him. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And then Ezreal, he fires his blast in a line, but it's important to know when there are line abilities like this, especially on 4-cost units, it has like smart targeting, and it will select the line with the most units. So it also has essentially just think about it the same way as clump targeting does, except for it's slightly different because it will try to hit more units in the line. He'll position himself in a way to hit more units in line. We can position around that as well. So how do you position around all of these units? Because these are the core things we're going to talk about. And I'm just going to show you guys an example of if you play like a punk reroll game, your comp can end up looking like this. Usually what your in-game comp looks like. I just got done playing this, unless you end up transitioning off a punk. But if you play for like full 3-star comp, your comp ends up looking like this, except for minus a Sona. Sona's an extra slot. You actually play Poppy here. Typically, it rounds out your synergies really well, and sometimes you can itemize Poppy. That'd be nice. But in the event that these units are very meta in your lobby, that there's a lot of these type of units, you need what's called corner bait, which in previous sets we haven't had to have a lot of corner bait lately. Default positioning in most sets have recently had just been the corner, because there hasn't been blitz hooks, and then what were they called? They weren't called assassins. They weren't called infiltrators. Whatever our assassins were last set, I always forget what they're called. They would, you couldn't really position around assassins anyway, so you would just default corner usually. And then we've had some sets where we have blitzcrank and you default second to corner. But this set is a little bit different because we have those corner targeting units. And so if you want to avoid the corner targeting units, if those units end up being very meta, or you see a KDA Akali fully itemized, you see a Caitlyn fully itemized, and if a lot of those things are in your matchups right now, then a good default positioning is just one of these 3 hexes and to have corner bait. So the way a fight would happen with Akali, if Akali was on this side, she would launch to Senna, and then she would either launch back to Vi or launch back to Sona if Vi is still alive. And then so if she went back to Vi, she'd go to Vi, and if Senna is still alive, then it would go down to Senna again. If Vi died, then it would go up here, and then it would go over to Sona, and then it would go back to Senna. And your Jinx this entire time stays pretty safe in this fight. Same thing happened with Lucian, Caitlyn, all that good stuff. And so this is some great default positioning if you see that a lot of people in your lobby are playing those units, and you should be good to go. Something to think about with Thresh positioning, the reason why I have this kind of like triangle type shape, the triangle in the corners, and then the 1-1 right here, is because if there is a Thresh and the Thresh is right, in front of your team, he will target the other Thresh. Like if imagine there's a Thresh here, he will throw his hook this direction or this direction, keeping your Jinx safe. Now, this position is not perfect, and there's some important things to note. How this position can get you into trouble, but this can be a great default positioning if there are a lot of these units in your game. these units in your game. The other thing I didn't really talk about is this will actually keep you safe from Ezreal and from Seraphine, because Seraphine and Ezreal will throw their Seraphine will throw her stuff up here or up here, and then Ezreal will throw his blast this direction, or maybe this direction or this direction. All of those keeps your Jinx safe in those matchups. So something important to note that you can get in a little bit of danger when you position like this is versus any of these units. Now, that doesn't inherently put you in danger, but this is just something to keep in mind. So if you guys don't know the edgelord trait, whenever the units get low and they're getting into their critical thing, so target drops below 50% health, then they will actually dash through the unit. So imagine a scenario where, let's go back to our other positioning, where there's a Kayn and Kayn positions right here, and then Kayn, this unit drops below 50% health, Kayn will dash to here. And then from here, usually Kayn will still walk back to one of these two, but you have the chance that Kayn will just walk forward and kill your Jinx. So that's something to consider whenever you're doing this. Now, typically people will put their edgelord units on the wings because most people end up positioning their carry around here, around here. So usually that's not an issue. And again, it's not even certain that he will walk there. It's just something to be concerned about, and to think about if you are default middle positioning. So if you are default middle positioning and you see a lot of people playing edgelords or true damage Akali or anything like that, that's something to keep in mind. But in my experience, people typically put their frontline carries on the wings so that they'll path down and not get stuck on frontline. You know, you guys have experienced that. Whenever you have a frontline carry, you put them in the middle, they sit here, they kill a frontliner, then they kill a next frontliner, then they kill next frontliner. But if you actually position on the wings, they might kill a frontliner and then walk down. So yeah, but that's just something to keep in mind with all of these units. All the edgelords have that interaction. Akali, the way that her targeting works, it's closest 3 enemies. So I've had fights where I've positioned in the corner and I only had one frontliner here and another frontliner here, and Akali actually just killed my backline at the very beginning of the fight because it linked her as one of the closest targets. So this will actually keep you safe from true damage Akali as well as KDA Akali. If you position like this and you have this kind of triangle positioning, it'll actually keep you safe from the Akali as well. And then Viego's an edgelord. Something to note about Zachary. Zachary will bounce 3 times on the nearest enemies. Now, if you are positioned like this, if Zachary is right here, he will go bounce, bounce, bounce. But if for whatever reason your front line is very small and these two die one of these are dead, then he might actually go bounce, bounce, bounce. So that's something to consider as well if you want to position like this. But usually Zach will just bounce on your front line if you have a big front line like this. Jax leaps to a target, the lowest health targets within 2 hexes. So if for whatever reason they position their Jax here, and again, most people position their frontline carries on the wings, but if everybody starts positioning center like this, people might start positioning center. We'll see. It really depends on what people are doing in the game. But if there were a Jax here and you kill this, and imagine the frontline is a little bit smaller, he kills this, there's only one guy over here, 0 guys over here left, he's standing here, then he will jump to your Jinx rather than go to these corners. And then additionally, TF goes to 3 closest targets as well. Let's make sure divided against the 3 nearest targets. So again, if they are matching your position on backline, then if your front line starts to get little, then you will start getting the shred. But that's the same thing if you position corner in front of TF and they killed one of your frontliners here, then it would hit you in the corner if you don't have a big front line there. So that's really kind of neither here nor there. When positioning that, Gnar will jump over his targets. And so if there's a Gnar carry and he's center, which definitely could happen, he will be here. And then once that frontliner is dead, he'll have a 50-50 decision whether to go here or here, kind of depending on what happens in your game. So I just wanted to show some of the cautionary tales of positioning like this, but I do think this is great default positioning if you don't know where to position, especially if there are people playing these units in your game, which there should be loads of people playing these 2 units in your game. But anyways, I just wanted to show you guys something you really need to consider where we haven't really considered default center position in a while. I think it's been since like 5.5 and 4.5 are both sets where you default center position. So just really consider when you get to the late game to default center like this. You know, the other downside of defaulting center is just if you're in a standard front to back comp, you know, a lot of times you want your units, like if you're versus another Jinx or something like that, you know, whatever, you know, you would rather have your Jinx in the opposite corner of their Jinx so you can build up a lot of time, right? Because you'll end up taking damage before one of the wing units whenever your front line dies. So that's, you know, a downside of this positioning. But I just really wanted to show you guys that positioning is not quite as static as it has been in the previous sets. And then the last thing, I'll just show you some Alawi tentacle tricks. So if you end up playing Alawi and you need corner bait because of there's a lot of these guys in your game, and you don't have any other, like you have a single backliner comp. This has happened to me before. Alawi just feels great for this because Alawi's tentacles will take the targeting. So he reverses an Akali or something like that. Akali will jump back here, kill this tentacle, jump up here. Alawi revives the tentacle, go back and kills the tentacle. And if Alawi is still alive, it goes back up here, kills the tentacle, or it goes down, kills the tentacle, Alawi keeps reviving it, kills the tentacle, kills the tentacle. So this is great. Now they may switch up this targeting to where units don't do that, but I don't think that they will because Alawi is a legendary unit. She should have some great utility like this. Some other thing you can do, I actually have a video of this. If you're playing EDM comps and you have just like a random Jax on your team and you want to build, and you're playing like Lux EDM, and you want to build AP items on your Jax, you put your Jax locked in by these tentacles in the corner. It will just fire off Lux lasers every 8 seconds. And if you build AP items on him, it's like you have 2 Luxes. So that's something cool right there. And then other things you can do with Alawi's tentacles is, you know, if you just need a lot of frontline, you just put them up on the wings. You want them to take damage. Alawi revives the tentacles. She just keeps reviving the tentacles as long as she is still alive whenever she casts. And so you'll have infinite frontline. If you want your Alawi's tentacles to deal damage, you usually put them on the second row with frontliners in front of them, so the tentacles do not die. And then when Alawi casts, she will slam down the tentacles and deal a lot of damage. But anyways, guys, this is just a quick little positioning video. I'll probably do more positioning videos in the future as I discover more tricks and stuff like that. But I just wanted to show you guys that positioning is not so static for your carries in set 10. Appreciate you guys, and make sure to like and subscribe to the video. And guys, I stream here on YouTube and on Twitch, wherever you prefer. And I would appreciate to see you guys there. That'd be awesome. Love you guys. I really do. Okay, I don't know how to end the video, so here we are. Goodbye.